Middle East analyst Nabila Ramdani, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Opposition groups have asked for confidence-building measures if they're to go further in the discussions that they began today with the Egyptian Vice President. Do you think the government is likely to come forward with these confidence-building measures, like removing the state of emergency?
If anything, I think the leaders of the opposition groups see these talks as a further tokenistic concession, and it's not answering the first and foremost demand, which is to see President Mubarak leave, a lift of the state of emergency, and also to see the parliament dissolved, and also organise a trial, a fair and a transparent trial for those involved in violence and corruption.
So essentially you think it's a delaying tactic by President Mubarak?
His vice president, who's Omar Suleiman, who's a very close ally of Mubarak, is very much seen as looking after President Mubarak. He's buying time for him until the next presidential elections. And the leaders of the opposition groups are very suspicious about his intentions and whether or not he's genuine about his dialogue.
We heard Lisa's last guest there talking about having Mubarak away from the political scene before further progress could be made. I mean, do you think that over the coming weeks that he will perhaps fade into the background sufficiently, become just a figurehead, but not be really seen in public to such an extent that the opposition groups may be prepared to go ahead with some further discussions?
I think that's what we are witnessing effectively at the moment, with the Vice President Omar Suleiman assuming a presidential role already, and negotiating with the different groups further about the future of Egypt. But I don't think that is satisfactory enough for the vast majority of Egyptians who are still demonstrating, are very emboldened, and who are desperately trying to achieve the main aim.
In the absence of any discussions, though, we're left with a stalemate, and where potentially do you see a breakthrough coming from?
But I think that this situation very much suits Western powers, who are very much working behind the scenes, orchestrating all these negotiations and talks, while trying to find a more suitable candidate which could potentially take over when Mubarak is ready to leave.
So advantageous, you think, for Western powers. That brings us, of course, back to the protesters gathered still in such large numbers in Tahrir Square there in Cairo and elsewhere around the country. What role do you think they will continue to play? Do you see largely peaceful protests continuing to play out on the streets and in the countryside of Egypt?
The demonstrators have made it abundantly clear that they're not interested in engaging in violence. They're demonstrating peacefully. We have seen scenes of Muslims and Christians demonstrating hand in hand together. Today is a demonstration in commemoration of the deaths of people who have been killed in pro-democracy demonstrations, the so-called Day of Martyrs. So they're making it clear that they are not going to be deterred by a stalemate situation.
And just very briefly, do you think the army will continue in its holding position, if you like, just standing by, keeping order?
It doesn't have any other option. It certainly cannot be seen engaging in violence, but at the same time, it's very much protecting President Mubarak's interests at the moment.
Okay, Nabila Ramdani, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.